Have you ever stopped to think about what really happened on that mysterious night when Jacob fought with an angel? Why would God allow something so unusual, so intense, so out of the norm? A man facing a celestial being. This wasn't a dream. It wasn't a vision. It was real. And there is a much deeper reason behind this than many people imagine. The Bible doesn't waste details. If it is written, it is because it has spiritual weight. And in this passage from Genesis 32, something beyond the visible was happening. It wasn't just a physical fight, it was a spiritual war, a battle between destiny and the past, between promises and fears, between the old Jacob and the new Israel. But what about Satan? Where was he while all this was happening? Could it be that the enemy was just watching? Or did he have something planned that very morning? The truth is that a lot happened that night, and very few understand what was really at stake. Jacob was not just crossing a river, he was crossing a spiritual boundary, and the presence of the angel there was no coincidence. God sent this being with a purpose. But which one? Why didn't you just send a message? Why allow a fight that would leave Jacob with a limp for the rest of his life? And meanwhile, in the shadows, Satan was also at work. This story goes beyond what you learned in Sunday school. If you think you already understand everything about this passage, get ready. What you hear next may change the way you view your own walk with God. Now tell me, have you ever seen this story from this angle? Have you ever imagined that behind this fight, there was a silent war between heaven and hell, with Jacob right in the middle? Comment below what you already knew about this passage and what is surprising you now. Your opinion can awaken other people too. And look, if this content is making you reflect, if something inside is moving, don't forget to leave a like. This really helps the channel to continue bringing profound truths straight from the Bible without distortions. Sign up too, because here we go deep, not into what pleases, but into what transforms. Each video here is a key to opening layers of the Word that many people have never seen. And this journey with Jacob, it's just beginning, because what happens right after the fight is even stronger. What most people don't realize is that this story is not just about a man in conflict, but about a man who is being transformed. Genesis 32:22-30 takes us straight to the moment when Jacob, after years of running away from consequences, family conflicts, wrong decisions, reaches a point of no return. It crosses the Jabbok River, and this may seem like just geography, but spiritually, it is a landmark. The river is the division between his past and his future. He is alone, and it is in this isolation, in this silent dawn, that everything changes. The Bible says that a man came to fight with him until dawn, but this man was no ordinary man. He was a celestial being. Many scholars agree that it was a theophany, a physical manifestation of God in human form. And look at the weight of this. Jacob was not fighting an enemy, a thief, a soldier. He was fighting God himself. And the most impressive thing, he didn't even know it at first. The fight was long, intense, all morning. And you may ask yourself, but why would God fight with a man? Why would God allow himself to be grabbed by someone like Jacob? The answer is in Jacob's soul. He no longer wanted to remain the same. Jacob carried the weight of deceiving his father, of stealing his brother's birthright, of spending years on the run. That confrontation was not physical. It was spiritual, emotional, deep. He wasn't just defending himself. He was finally facing everything that was inside of him. The fight with the angel was a reflection of the fight within himself. The strongest thing about this scene is that Jacob refuses to let go. He holds on tight, even injured, even limping. He says, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." This reveals a heart desperate for change. He knew this was the time. Either he seized that opportunity with all his might, or he would forever lose the chance to be transformed. Jacob had blessings before, riches, children, servants. But what he wanted now was different. He wanted the blessing of identity. He wanted to know who he was in God's eyes. And that's precisely what happens. The angel, or rather the Lord, manifested. There asks, "What is your name?" It seems like a simple question, but it's not. This question has enormous spiritual weight, because when Jacob answers Jacob, he is embracing who he is. Jacob means deceiver, supplanter. By saying his name, he is saying, "Yes, I am the one who lied, who deceived, who ran away." And that's where God changes everything. He says, You will no longer be Jacob but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed. This change is the change of destiny. And notice, God does not say that he defeated God, but that he prevailed, not in the sense of physical strength, but in the sense of spiritual endurance. He didn't give up, and that's what makes all the difference. Now imagine this scene. The day begins to dawn. Jacob is exhausted, bruised, limping, but he's different. Something in him was restored. He now has a visible mark of his experience with God, and that mark, that touch on his thigh that made him limp for the rest of his life, becomes an eternal reminder of his transformation. Because no one leaves a real encounter with the Almighty unscathed. He enters like Jacob and leaves like Israel. And there is one more important detail. At the end, Jacob asks, "What is your name?" And the answer is mysterious. The angel does not respond directly. This shows that there were still things that Jacob needed to understand over time. Sometimes God doesn't deliver all the answers right away. It delivers what you need to keep going. This scene, this fight, is not a symbolic tale or an isolated episode. It's a powerful spiritual picture of how God works with those who are ready to surrender, but not in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of honest confrontation with who they really are. And have you crossed your Jabbok? Have you ever had a morning when you felt like you were fighting something you couldn't see, but you knew was bigger than you? Have you ever had to cling to God even without understanding everything, just with the certainty that you needed to be changed from the inside out? This passage is a mirror. It shows how God cares so much about us that he allows us to go through painful but redemptive confrontations. God doesn't just want to give us external blessings. He wants to give us a new identity. He wants to touch where it hurts. Where is the pride? Where is the fear? Where is the blame? And turn it into something new, something eternal. And while all this was happening there on the bank of that river, there was something very important that few people realize. Satan was also on the scene. Not physically, but spiritually. Because the enemy always takes advantage of the moments when we are alone, broken, vulnerable. He whispers, "You won't make it. God won't hear you. Look who you are." But that night, the voice that won was not that of the accuser. It was the voice of God himself saying, "You are Israel. Now I want to hear from you." What caught your attention most about this story? Have you ever been in a struggle like this where it seemed like you were fighting with God, but he was actually fighting for you? Comment below with the phrase, "I'm not going to let go until he blesses me," or share what you felt hearing that word. This strengthens the faith of many people, in addition to showing that you are here, walking with us. And of course, if you've made it this far, it's because this content really spoke to you. So leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This way you help this content reach more people who also need to experience this transformation. And hold on there, because what comes next will show you the invisible side of that night, where the enemy tried to act in the shadows. And you will understand why this battle was much bigger than it seems. Let's continue on this journey together. Now think with me. Jacob had already experienced a lot. He had deceived his father, stolen his brother's blessing, ran away from home, built wealth, had children, accumulated assets. But even with all this, he still carried something unresolved inside him. He knew that sooner or later, he would have to face his brother Esau, the one he had passed behind. And as he approaches the reunion, he becomes scared. And that's where God's process begins. Because God knew that Jacob's problem wasn't Esau, it was himself. That's what he carried inside. That fight with the angel wasn't punishment, it was revelation. It wasn't God opposing Jacob, it was God giving him the opportunity to see himself, to break himself, to surrender, and be healed. Because when God allows a man to fight with him, it is not about physical strength, it's about the disposition of the heart. God could have defeated Jacob with one breath, but he wanted Jacob to resist. God was not testing Jacob to see if he was strong. God was revealing who he could become if he stopped being guided by fear, by lies, by self-protection. That fight was the most profound way of confronting what was hidden inside. Jacob didn't need to beat Esau. He needed to beat Jacob. And the only way for that to happen was this direct confrontation with the divine. God didn't come down there to fight in a human sense as if he had something against him. God came down to transform. Because when God wants to change someone, he doesn't send a message. He introduces himself. He appears in the dark of night. He enters the most fragile area of our soul And there, without witnesses, without distractions, he confronts us. And look at that impressive detail, the touch on Jacob's thigh, an intentional touch. God struck Jacob in a place that represented strength and support, because before that, Jacob supported himself with his own means, his own cunning, his own tricks. But now God leaves him limping, not to punish him, but to show that, from now on, he would walk differently. Pride was touched. Independence was injured. The escape was interrupted. God wanted to show, from now on, you will be dependent. You will trust. You will remember that I was here. This name change is more than symbolic. When God changes someone's name in the Bible, he is changing their mission, their destiny, their calling. From Abram to Abraham, from Sarai to Sarah, from Saul to Paul, and here, from Jacob to Israel. And why Israel? Because he fought with God and with men and prevailed. But what does prevail mean in this story? It's not about emerging victorious like in a common fight. Prevailing here means not giving up, enduring the process, enduring the confrontation without running away, without denying, without backing down. Israel is the name of the one who faced God himself and remained standing, even limping. This is where we understand that the fight was not for God to discover who Jacob was. It was for Jacob to discover who he was in God. That's why God asks the name, because Jacob needed to say with his own mouth, I am the one who deceives. And that's when redemption comes. God responds, you are no longer that. You are Israel now. This is spiritual identity. And there are many people today who need to experience exactly this change. People who have heard promises, who have walked with God, who have been blessed in many ways, but who still carry the old name, the mark of guilt, error, shame. And do you know what is most impactful? Jacob only went through this transformation because God came to him that night. Jacob did not go after God. He was alone, isolated, scared, full of guilt and fear of what would come in the morning. And it is in this scenario that God appears. This shows that God does not wait for us to get ready first and then find us. He appears in the middle of the mess, in the middle of the crisis, in the middle of the pain. And don't come to throw it away. Come to transform. Have you ever noticed that there are moments in our lives when it seems like everything is pressing down on us, that it seems like the past demands, the future scares, and the present leaves us paralyzed? That's exactly what Jacob felt. And God knew that if he wasn't treated that night, he would never be ready for the next day. Because what God does in the dark of the soul is what prepares us to support the light of purpose. Maybe you're wondering, why is everything so difficult with me? Why does it feel like I'm fighting something I don't even understand? It may be that you are, like Jacob, in your own Jabbok, in your own valley. God is not destroying you. He is revealing. He is pulling out everything that needs to die, everything that needs to be confronted, everything that needs to be touched. And if you endure this process without letting go, without giving up, you will come out of there with a new name, with a firmer faith, with a spiritual mark that no one will be able to take away from you. It's exactly at this kind of moment that our pride is broken, that the mask falls, that the excuses end. And it is on this ground where we realize that we have nowhere else to run, that God reveals himself. And do you know why? Because God doesn't want you to continue to be defined by your mistakes. He doesn't want you to continue seeing yourself as someone who just runs away, deceives, tries to save himself the wrong way. God wants to give you a new name, a new identity. And this only happens when we stop resisting and start holding on tight, even while limping. Tell me in the comments, do you feel like you're going through a night like Jacob's? Have you ever experienced a moment when everything seemed to be falling apart, but deep down, it seemed like God was teaching you something? Comment here with the phrase, I'm not going to let go until he transforms me. Or share with us what God has already said to you while listening to this message. This is more than a video. It's a space where lives are being treated, marked, and restored. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now is the time. Here we do not relieve the truth, but deliver it with love, with depth, and based on the word. Leave a like if this content makes sense to you, and send it to someone you know needs to hear this. Because the next part of this journey will show you even more clearly how the spiritual world was at war that morning, and what Satan tried to do while Jacob fought for his new identity. We are already continuing. What happened in that Jabbok valley cannot be interpreted as a simple fight between two men. There, in that isolated place, far from family, far from servants, Far from distractions, one of the most symbolic spiritual battles in the entire Bible took place. A clash between the old man and the propo-eternal sight. A confrontation between fallen nature and heavenly identity. And what is most impressive is that this moment was silent for the world, but thunderous for the sky, because there weren't just two figures fighting in a physical fight. The visible and invisible dimensions were at war. As Jacob held that mysterious man, his spirit was crying out, even without articulate words. It was a desperate cry, coming from the depths of the soul. "I won't let you go if you don't bless me." This phrase was not a demand from someone who wanted more material blessings. It was the plea of a broken man, aware that he had lived too long without knowing who he really was. It was the request of someone who was willing to limp away, if necessary, as long as he left with something the world couldn't give: identity, forgiveness, purpose, and peace. In that valley, God was extracting from Jacob everything that was pride, control, vanity. It was crushing the old structure of self-sufficiency. He was destroying the image Jacob had built of himself over the years: a survivor, a manipulator, a man who always found a way. And God was showing, now you're not going to come out with what you deserve. You're going to come out with what you need. It was a blessing that cost something. It wasn't just a gift, it was a brand. A real, profound, and irreversible change. And this change left signs. The Bible says that the angel touched Jacob's thigh joint, and he limped from then on. This is too deep to ignore, because every true encounter with God leaves marks. No one leaves a real experience with the Almighty the same. God touches specific areas, usually the most sensitive ones. Sometimes he touches our way of thinking, sometimes in emotions. Other times it touches on old wounds, on the guilt we pretend to forget, on the traumas we bury, on the defenses we build to survive. But when he touches, he transforms. When he plays, he scores. And when he scores, it's forever. And the question that remains in the air is, why did God mark Jacob precisely on the leg at the point of support? Because what God was saying was something like this: you have always walked your way, with your own plans, with your own steps. But from now on you will walk differently. Your strength now comes from me. Your walk now will remind you of who supported you that night. And it was not for nothing that, after that, the text itself says that the Israelites did not eat the nerve of the thigh joint. That became a living memory of a supernatural experience. The scene in that valley is the perfect picture of persistent prayer. Jacob did not give a speech. He didn't follow a pretty model of prayer. He didn't memorize verses to impress. He just held on and didn't let go. This is raw faith, real faith. It's the kind of faith that doesn't just want answers, but wants God himself. Jacob held on tight, even in pain. He refused to let go of that moment. Even without understanding everything, even without seeing everything, he knew that that meeting was changing everything. And that teaches us a lot, because there are many people today who pray beautifully, who sing, who preach, but have never had a moment of contact with God, a moment of brokenness where you say, I won't let go, I won't let go, I need to be touched. There are people who want a blessing, but don't want a mark. He wants victory, but he doesn't want brokenness. Mas a Bíblia mostra que os maiores homens e mulheres de Deus foram aqueles que foram quebrados antes de serem levantados. Jacob limped away, but he emerged transformed. And there are many people today who want to leave encounters with God walking upright, with their heads full of pride, without any marks. And that's why they continue to be Jacob, even attending temples, even quoting verses. The prayer that wins is the one that doesn't give up. Even though she is hurt, she continues to hold on. That even without understanding remains firm. That even when listening to silence, you don't let go of your faith. Jacob had no guarantee of anything. He didn't even know he was wrestling with God at first. But something inside him said, don't let go, don't let go. It won't go away the same. E essa sensibilidade espiritual foi o que o conduziu ao novo nome, ao novo tempo, ao novo caminhar. Now think with me. Aren't we being invited to return to this type of meeting today? Isn't God calling us to our own valley, where He wants to mark us, break us, redefine us? How many people are walking around with everything fine on the outside, but everything messed up on the inside? How many have the name Jacob, but want to live like Israel, but without going through the valley, without going through the dawn, without going through the touch on the thigh. Answer me honestly. Have you ever had an experience with God that really left a mark on you? What changed your way of walking, of thinking, of seeing life? If so, comment below with the phrase, "God marked me in the valley." And if still he didn't have one but he feels he needs to, he comments, "I want my meeting in the valley." This here is more than a comment. It is a declaration of faith, of surrender, of sincere desire for something real with the Lord. If this video is touching you, if these words are touching areas that you didn't even know were dormant, leave a like now, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Here we are not to entertain when we are to awaken. And hold on tight, because in the next part you will understand how, while this fight was happening, the enemy was acting in the shadows. Yes, Satan was also lurking that night, and what he tried to do could be happening in your life today without you even realizing it. Let's continue. While all this was happening in the valley, that supernatural encounter between Jacob and the angel of the Lord, that moment of transformation, of identity being rewritten, of a man being broken inside and out, there was a parallel spiritual dimension in motion. The Bible directly does not mention Satan in this narrative of Genesis 32, but anyone who knows the biblical pattern, who understands how the spiritual world moves, realizes that between the lines of this story, the enemy was acting, not in the physical field, not visibly, but inside Jacob, in his emotions, in his thoughts, in what he carried in an invisible but devastating way. Before the fight, Jacob is overcome with fear. He fears that Esau will come to him with the intention of revenge. He divides his family into groups. He prepares gifts to try to appease his brother. He begins to imagine the worst. He enters a state of anxiety, insecurity, despair. And that's where Satan's actions reveal themselves, because it is exactly in these spaces where the mind begins to spin in circles, where the heart loses peace, where the soul panics, that the enemy launches his arrows. And Jacob, even though he had promises, even though he had met God before, even though he had built a life full of achievements, now he is being attacked from within. The enemy's attack was not against Jacob's body. It was against the trust he had in God. It was an attempt to sabotage faith. And how often does this happen to us? When we are about to experience something new, when God is about to change us, when heaven is about to move, hell tries to breathe fear, insecurity, doubt. Satan does not need to appear with horns and smoke. It appears in the subtle suggestions. You won't make it. You will lose everything. You don't deserve this blessing. What if Esau kills you? What if God is no longer with you? This type of thinking corrodes faith, paralyzes the soul, and makes us want to go back. That night Jacob was wrestling with God, but he was also being surrounded by the voices of the enemy. While heaven was preparing the new name, hell was trying to remind Jacob of the old past. While the angel marked him with identity, the devil tried to trap him in guilt. And it's like that to this day. The greatest spiritual war in our lives is not against visible demons, but against what whispers inside our minds when we are alone. And that night Jacob was completely alone. No servants, no children, no wife, just him and God. And between him and God, the enemy trying to manipulate his emotions. This moment represents the field where the battle between flesh and spirit takes place. On the one hand, Jacob's flesh saying, "Run away, hide, be afraid, negotiate the situation." On the other side, the spirit was attracted by something greater, by a purpose, by a truth that it had not yet fully understood. And between these two sides, there is the voice of the enemy feeding the flesh, trying to get him to give up the fight before he is touched. But what the enemy didn't count on was that Jacob, even though he was injured, even insecure, even with the past knocking on the door, chose not to let go. He chose to continue holding on. He chose to fight. Satan does not need to be physically present to influence. It operates behind the emotional scenes. And this story shows this with spiritual clarity. The battlefield was set, but it wasn't just in the sand of the valley. It was inside Jacob's mind, there where thoughts collide, where memories of the past become accusatory, where ancient ghosts gain strength, where the voices of "you are not worthy" and "you are just a deceiver" echo with strength. That's where Satan works. He is the accuser. He doesn't need to knock you down with physical force. He wants to destroy you from the inside before God even lifts you up from the outside. It is as if that night there were two intentions around Jacob. The intention of heaven, transform, mark, rename, lift, and the intention of hell, to make you give up, to make you doubt, to make you sink into guilt and fear. And this battle continues to rage in many hearts today, while God is there, ready to treat, to heal, to redefine who you are. The enemy is whispering that you no longer have a chance, that it has no value, because God has already abandoned you. But the fact that God came to Jacob that night proves that even when we are overcome with fear, God still comes. Even when guilt suffocates us, God still moves. Even when the enemy tries to shout louder, God's voice whispers, I still see you. I still have a plan. Many people today are living their own Jabbok. People who know they are close to something big but who also feel the weight of fear trying to sabotage everything. People who are hearing promises but are also being bombarded by thoughts of failure. People who are being called by God but are being accused by the devil. And what this story shows is that in the midst of this war, the secret is to hold on tight. It's grasping the presence of God with everything you have. It's saying, I won't let go, I won't go back, I won't give up. Because while you hold, God touches. As you cry, God marks. As you fight, God transforms you. Now, I really want to hear from you here in the comments. Tell me, have you ever noticed moments when it seemed like God was treating your life, but at the same time, there was emotional pressure, anxiety, a voice telling you to give up? Comment here with the phrase, God treats me while the enemy tries to stop me. Or, I am in my Jabbok. Write what's in your heart. Share your experience, your moment. This helps others who are reading and strengthens those who are also struggling. And if this content is making sense to you, leave your like now, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss the next episode of this series. Because what we're going to talk about Israel's identity will make you understand why this brand changed the history of humanity. Let's move forward together. When God looks at Jacob in that intense dawn, sweaty, exhausted, limping, but still clinging to the angel and determined not to let go until he is blessed, he doesn't just see an insistent man. He sees someone who, despite all the mistakes, despite all the past marked by deceit, fear, escape, and manipulation, decided not to give up. And it is at this exact point that one of the most profound turns of identity in the entire Bible takes place. God looks at Jacob and says, his name will no longer be Jacob, it will be Israel. And this moment is so powerful that the chosen nation bears that name to this day, a name that was born from pain, but was generated by the faith and insistence of someone who did not let go of God in the most difficult moment of his life. The name Israel has a gigantic spiritual weight. In Hebrew, it carries the idea of he who fights with God and prevails. And this prevailing does not mean that Jacob defeated God in the sense of strength, as if someone could defeat the Creator. It's the opposite of that. The meaning is, you have not given up on me. What God was celebrating in Jacob was not a man's victory over the divine, but the courage to remain, to endure, to insist, even in pain, even injured, even without understanding everything. The fight was not just physical, it was a fight of the soul. And Jacob in that valley chose to continue holding on to God even when everything around him screamed for him to let go. This teaches us something profound. There is a blessing in store for those who remain, for those who struggle for intimacy, for those who not only want material blessings but want to be changed from within. Jacob could have asked for gold, he could have asked for wealth, security, protection, but what he asked was, I will not let you go until you bless me. And the blessing that came was the most powerful of all. A new name, a new identity, a new purpose. God didn't just heal Jacob's soul, he repositioned him in history. He snatched him from the condition of a fugitive, a deceiver, and established him as a prince. That's what Israel is. Someone who has been transformed on the battlefield of faith. And the mark on Jacob's thigh. That mark is the most visible symbol of the invisible change that took place within him. He started to limp, and that means much more than just a physical condition. It means that he was now showing signs of dependence, that he no longer walked with the strength of his flesh, but with the memory that it was God who touched him. It was God who shaped him. It was God who gave him a new name. Every time Jacob, Now Israel took a step and felt the pain of the touch. He remembered the dawn when God confronted him. It wasn't a punishment, it was an eternal reminder, and we need to start valuing the marks that God leaves on us, because these are the marks that prove that the encounter was real. You know, there are people who think that being marked by God means having a life without pain, without wounds, without scars. But the truth is that many of the men and women most used by God in the Bible were those who carried deep marks of encounters with the eternal. Moses had a shining face after being in the presence of God. Paul had a thorn in the flesh. Isaiah saw the heavens open and exclaimed, "Woe is me," because he saw himself as a sinner. John fell as dead when he didn't see Jesus glorified. And Jacob began to limp. They were all marked, and they were all transformed by this brand. The name Israel does not represent a status, represents a process. It is born of surrender, from confronting the truth, from the abandonment of the old identity. And this process is not easy. It's not comfortable, but it is absolutely necessary. And there's something you need to understand now. God doesn't change names randomly. He only changes the names of those who agree to be treated. There are people who want a new time, but don't want a new name. He wants a blessing, but he doesn't want to fight. He wants victory, but he doesn't want transformation. But the name Israel is only born after the dawn, after the tear, after the touch that hurts, after not letting go. And this has everything to do with what we live in today. How many people are trapped in Jacob's identity, repeating past patterns, carrying guilt, trying to resolve everything with their own strength, running away from divine confrontation, avoiding the process of brokenness? But God is still willing to change names. God is still willing to touch where it hurts to heal what doesn't appear. He is still willing to face our masks and show who we really are. But he doesn't do that to those who just want relief. He helps those who want real change. And change begins when, like Jacob, we stop everything, isolate ourselves with God and say, "Today I'm not leaving here until something changes inside me." The most beautiful thing is that, after that dawn, Jacob's own posture changes. He is no longer afraid of Esau. He goes to meet his brother with humility, with peace, with the awareness that something has changed. And do you understand? God didn't change Esau. God changed Jacob. We often pray asking God to change the circumstances, the people around us, what's on the outside. But God wants to start with us, because when identity changes, everything changes. The new name transforms the way we walk, talk, and react. The new name is like a new lens in the eyes of the soul. Now tell me here in the comments, honestly, do you feel like you are ready to stop being Jacob and become Israel? Do you feel like you have real encounters with God? Have you ever experienced spiritual dawns where everything seemed to break inside, but in the end, you came out different? Comment with the phrase, "I am Israel, marked by God," if you have already experienced something like this, or "No, or I want my new name." If you feel you are ready for this change in your spiritual identity, this isn't just about watching a video, it's about going on a journey. And when you comment, you participate in this journey along with others who are being touched like you. Let's continue together, because the next point in this story will reveal how pain can become an eternal memorial of God's grace. We are already continuing. What if that's exactly what's happening to you right now? What if this moment in your life, this heaviness, this silence, this feeling that everything is dark, everything is stuck, everything is falling apart, is your own Jabbok Valley? What if, like Jacob, you are on the edge, surrounded by pressures, memories, uncertainties, and God is there not to punish you, but to confront you with love? Have you ever thought that perhaps what you are calling a struggle, a desert, a crisis, is the meeting between your soul and your purpose? Because the Jabbok of Jacob was not just a physical place. It was the exact scenario where God decided to deal with what no one saw. And many of us, even without physically crossing a river, are already in that same place. We live full of unresolved stories, of poorly healed memories, of open wounds that we learn to hide with smiles, with rehearsed phrases, with the mask of someone who is fine. But inside, we are like Jacob, afraid to face those we hurt, afraid of being exposed, afraid of no longer being who we think we are. There are people now, as you listen to me, who are at this exact point in history. He knows he can't run away anymore. He knows he needs to face something that has been dragging on for years. An unconfessed lie, an unforgiven mistake, an untreated sin. a past that still dictates the choices of the present. And sometimes this fear is so paralyzing that the only thing a person can do is hide from people, from family, from church, from God, and even from themselves. But look how tremendous. God does not ignore these escapes. He goes there. It goes down into the valley. He finds us in solitude. He reveals himself in the darkness. He enters where no one enters. And it's not to humiliate you. It's not to expose your flaws. It's to heal you. God does not shy away from confrontation because confrontation with God is always redemptive. He doesn't fight to beat us. He fights to free us. He doesn't play to hurt. He plays to make a mark, to change the way we walk, think, feel, live. God wants this confrontation because he knows that you will not discover who you are as long as you continue to run away from who you were. And here is the strongest point of this part of the story. The true blessing is after the struggle, not before, not during, after. Because while we are fighting, we are still torn between what we were and what we want to be, between fear and faith, between pain and promise. But when the fight is over, when the night passes, when the sun rises, the one who is left standing is the one who was touched. Jacob only becomes Israel after the battle, after the confrontation, after the touch. And that's exactly what many people don't understand. Struggle is not a sign of divine rejection. It's a sign of approach. God fights with who he wants to transform. God confronts who he wants to raise up. God marks who he chose. Maybe you are praying and asking for change, for answers, for healing, for a fresh start. But all you are feeling now is pain, is confusion, is silence. The impression it gives is that God has moved away. But isn't he closer than ever? Is this pain not exactly where he is touching? Could this silence not be him taking you to a conversation that has no audience? Because there are things that God only says in the dark. There are blessings that only come after the struggle. There are answers that only arise after the early hours of confrontation. And pay attention to this. You can even try to escape this process. You can try to stifle what you feel, distract your mind, seek temporary refuges. But the soul knows when it's time to stop running. The soul feels when the Jabbok has arrived. And if you arrived here in this video, listening to this now, perhaps you have already felt this call. Maybe God is using every word you've heard so far as a mirror that doesn't accuse you but calls you to be someone new. And you know what's most beautiful? God still gives new names. Still, today. Perhaps your spiritual name is tied to your past. Maybe you feel like Jacob, the one who deceived, who ran away, who was not an example. But God has already seen you as Israel. He already sees you for what you will become, not for what you were. You just need to accept the confrontation. You just need to stop running away. All you have to do is say, I'm not going to run anymore. I want to be marked. And no, it won't be easy. It won't be painless. Jacob limped away, and maybe you'll come out of this process with scars too. But it is these marks that will remind you day after day that you survived the darkest night of your life and were touched by God. These are the marks that will prevent you from returning to who you were. They are silent testimony that the encounter was real, that the valley was not in vain. Answer me one thing honestly. Do you feel like you are experiencing an internal struggle with God? Do you feel like you are on the edge of your own valley, about to be confronted, transformed, repositioned? If this is hitting your heart hard right now, comment below with the phrase, "My blessing comes after the fight," or "I'm ready to stop running away." Also comment if you have ever been through this type of confrontation with God and how it impacted you. Your comment could be an answer for those who are experiencing exactly this right now. And if this video speaks to you, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell, because what we're going to share next will open your vision about the purpose behind each touch from God. We continue together on this journey. Let's continue. If you've stayed this far, it's because God spoke to you in some way, and that's already a sign that He's doing something inside you. So don't leave without leaving your mark here too. Subscribe to the channel now. Activate the bell so you don't miss anything, because here we remain firm, bringing truths that transform straight from the Word. If this message touched you, leave a like right now. This helps YouTube deliver this content to more people who also need to experience this reunion with God. And comment below with faith the phrase, "I fought and was marked by God." Write this if you felt that this video spoke directly to your heart. Your comment could be the confirmation someone needed to keep fighting. And for those of you who are committed to growing spiritually, click on the video that appears here on the left side of the screen. It is the continuation of this message and will take you even deeper into what God wants to do with you. It doesn't stop here. Let's continue on this journey together.